We got news.
So how are you feeling? We're just a few weeks away, what, 20 plus days away from the election? How do you feel about the race?
I feel great. We're leading in all swing states. We're leading mostly in nationals, I think. You know, I'm a believer in polls. Some of them are fake, like a lot of writers. But I'm a believer in polls, and we're leading in just about every swing state. I think we're leading now in every swing state. And she can't talk. There's something wrong with the candidate, but I'll take it. But we have, I think we're doing very well, yeah.
What do you want to say to those voters out there who might be undecided, who don't know what they're going to do yet?
Well, I think we're going to have a lot of votes. We have something sort of special going on. We have tremendous support. They're so tired of seeing what's happened to this country. They're so tired of seeing the incompetence, seeing the border. And I think the border is maybe a bigger deal than even inflation. Inflation is a massive word. The bad economy is...
I mean, the inflation's done. The inflation's gone back down. What you're talking about is like how much prices have already risen. And unless you want to impose deflationary measures, which, you know, you won't.
Is massive. The inflation made the economy bad. It made it impossible for people. But I almost think that when they see millions of people coming into our country, 13,099 murderers, many of them murdered more than one person. When they see that, I actually think I think the border is a bigger issue than even the economy. Those are the two big issues.
It's had such an impact, the open border.
And the other issue that's really big, I think, is how badly they've done with North Carolina, parts of Georgia. When you look at what's happened, and Florida, we'll see what's happening there. I think we got a little bit lucky in the sense that it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as they thought. And a lot of governors have done it.
Oh, Andy, have you seen this interview with regards to what he has to say about tariffs? He goes crazy with it. He hits us with some hard-hitting economic theory. You think a 20% tariff is bad?
Job, but the response from the White House has been absolutely terrible. Her response has been terrible, so bad that they didn't even want. I see Ron didn't want her in Florida, said just don't even come here. So I think we're doing really well, you know.
And of course, President Biden is blaming you for this bad response to these hurricanes, and the White House is calling it all misinformation.
They blame me for everything. It's okay.
This is, of course, incorrect. Biden hasn't blamed Donald Trump for the response to hurricanes. What he's saying is that conspiracy theories about FEMA coming to abduct your babies to eat them has been slowing rescue efforts because people have been turning away FEMA support, and they've been having to turn away maybe well-intentioned but misguided independent rescuers who are interfering with rescue operations.
When you look at our numbers, when you look at our economy, when you look at our job numbers, every single chart that you put up, we beat them by numbers that nobody's ever seen. We had the best economy in history. We had the best job numbers in history, and we had the best border in history. We rebuilt the military, and then he gave away a lot of it to the Afghans. If he gave it to, you know, the Taliban, I think in the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And then when you think about it, I think Putin really just said, hey, this is a good time because these people are incompetent. Putin would never have gone into Ukraine. October 7th would have never happened. And you know what else? Inflation wouldn't have happened.
Do you believe that they...
Why is American fascism so whimsical? I actually blame our history classes for this. But if you're asking, like, why is it so stupid? So was Hitler's. So was Mussolini's. You can watch translated versions of their speech or like subtitled or whatever. The most people only ever see one Hitler speech. There's one Hitler speech they made the big damn movie out of. The one where you see him and he's doing all the gay little hand gestures. That one. But like he made a million speeches. You take a look at the language in them. It's the same shit. It's literally like almost point for point. They're taking our jobs. They're eating the dogs. They're eating I mean, it's essentially the same thing. Yeah, fascism has never been cool and steely and cold and calculated. It's always been idiotic. It's always been like this. There's never been, like, Mussolini was a clown, man. Hitler was too. Mussolini more so, I think, in like mannerism and delivery. But yeah, incoherent rambling about how the country has fallen infinite. It's like worse than it's ever been, but he'll make it bigly once more. It's crazy.
used money from FEMA and
It's
gave
always
it to
been
the
soy.
illegal immigrants, because the White House is saying that that was misinformation as well.
No, it came out from there, and everybody knew it, and it was released from them. Then all of a sudden, a week later, they come out with a different scenario, and they have so many different pots of money. They just, it just melds. Nobody knows it. Nobody has any idea. That group has no idea what's happening. Look, it's the worst president and the worst vice president in the history of our country. They're horrible. And he can't stand her.
Also, I know I say this a lot, but both of these people should be arrested. This is an interview with a presidential candidate where the so-called journalist is like, hey, you were fact-checked, but their fact check was wrong, right? You're always right, right? Sorry, right to jail.
For one simple reason, she overthrew him. But she didn't do it. The party did. Call it the deep state, whatever it is, but the party did it. And it was really a coup. And he is a very angry guy. And actually, I think he looks better now, because now we're comparing him to her. And for the first time, he looks a little bit better. But he's a very angry guy. Look, he got 14. I'm not a fan, but he got 14 million votes. She got no votes. She never made it to Iowa. She was the
This
first.
specific Fox anchor was cited as the first source of defamation by the Dominion lawsuit. It's just crazy what you can get away with, man.
One of the 22 people running, she was the first one to drop out. We seem to be up in the swing states in every one of them. And it doesn't matter. Look, I've worked 32 days in a row, and we have another 25. And I intend to work every one of them. I'm not going to take days off. Let's take a little vacation, everybody, right? We're running to save our country, so we're not going to be taking any vacation. We had such a day a little while ago in Butler. You saw that we had 101,000 people show up. 101,000 people. A tribute to Corey, the firefighter, and a tribute to a lot of things.
Huh?
And it was an amazing, I don't think I've ever...
Didn't he take a record number of vacations? By far. Yeah, but no one ever talks about that. Again, it's just like nothing matters, because it's no... and all of the like liberal or impartial media, like CNN or whatever, they don't... It's like the classic bit of like, impartiality doesn't mean giving the right person and the wrong person the same amount of time. It means finding out what's true. Where if you believed in truth, you would have like a rabidly anti-Trump platform. The problem is that like reality is anti-Trump. So if you were a neutral journalist with no partiality towards the Democrats, you would dedicate 99.9% of your time to railing against Trump for every lie that he tells all the time. But that gives the appearance of partiality, It's the same damn thing we went through with like creationism versus the evolutionary theory, where it's like, oh, well, we have to give people, both equal amounts of time to discuss their unequally correct ideas. Also, I don't think I have the juice in me for a full segment on this, but I have to throw it in somewhere.
Would you rather have the black president or the white president who got 1.7 billion off the price? I think they want the white guy right now.
I just had to throw that one in there. Choose, Western man.
Never seen anything like it, actually.
Well, the pictures were incredible. Are you able to register some of those people to vote?
Yeah.
Are you getting those ballots in the boxes?
We do. We register a lot of people when we do rallies and when we do things like that. And we have the endorsement of Elon, as you know, Elon Musk, who's great. He's a great guy. He had such a good time. He put the black hat on. I didn't even...
Dark
Why are they
He calls
using
it
this
dark matter.
picture,
How
man?
cool is that, right? He calls it dark. He's a great guy. But he's given us a really powerful endorsement. He's out campaigning in Pennsylvania today. He's actually campaigning because he says if we don't win, we're not going to have a country.
He said this will be the last election if Donald Trump doesn't win. He's very worried about freedom of speech, censorship.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do about that?
Well, I think that we just have to win. The only thing you can do is to win. No, these are bad people. And they're surrounded by very bad people. I think they're surrounded by much worse people than they are. Joe didn't really know too much about where he was, and Kamala's worse than him. Joe is much more competent than her.
Gallup poll.
Would Trump dropping the N-word actually kill his campaign? Genuinely, at this point, no. I don't think it would change it. I don't think anything would change anything at this point.
Says only 57% of Americans are very or somewhat confident that their votes this year will be accurately cast and counted.
Well, probably
The
right.
percentage who say they are not at all confident in the vote is now 19%. It was 6% in 2008.
I don't feel confident. When you have mail-in voting, Jimmy Carter had a commission on it. Nobody does mail-in voting. Now, you look at other countries, France, they go to paper ballots. France had it, and they had a lot of problems.
But you don't want to discourage people from mail-in voting.
No, I don't. Look, we have to win the election, and then we have to really fix this whole thing because you need borders. I built
Need borders.
571 miles of wall, and they sold the wall for 5 cents on the dollar. You know, it's very expensive. It's exactly what Border Patrol wanted. They sold the wall for 5 cents on the dollar. And I said, you know, they want open borders. They want open borders, and they're always going to want, and she's always going to want open borders. That's the $64,000 question. Why? I have no idea. Maybe they.
I don't even know what this is referring. I don't know. I don't know what this is referring to. I don't even know. I don't know why $64,000 question.
Country.
One of the elements of the border has brought in Tren de Aragua, this Venezuelan gang, quite dangerous. You told us about this.
Not quite. You could take the word. It's just pure
Billions dangerous.
Evil.
Billions
and you told us this back in 2015 and 2016, that Venezuela was emptying their prisons and they were coming here, and you were mocked for it. How did you know back then that these Venezuelan gangs were coming to America?
It's again like a shameless propaganda mill. There is no comparison to Fox News. Like, there is nothing. I mean, you have like people who try to awkwardly imitate their flow, like OAN or Newsmax or whatever, but like there is nothing comparable to them on the left, not even remotely.
It's just common sense. If I'm running Venezuela, like their gentleman who's becoming very rich because we're buying oil from Venezuela. You can believe this? We have more liquid gold under our feet than anybody else, so we're buying oil from Venezuela. He's emptying out his prisons, but he's not the only one. It's not Venezuela. It's everyone all over the world. The Congo in Africa. We've taken in hundreds of people from their prisons.
The non-government of Congo is flying people over first class straight to America. Billions and billions.
The Congo, all the way in Africa, many, many countries. The Middle East, we're taking in massive numbers of people, and many terrorists, and they're coming into our country, and they're Middle Eastern terrorists. And from Asia, we're taking in, and a lot from South America.
There was an Afghan refugee charged with plotting a U.S. Election Day massacre.
Nothing surprises me.
What about that, though? Are you expecting chaos on Election Day?
No, I don't think so. Not from the side that votes for Trump.
But I'm just wondering if these outside agitators will start up on Election Day. Let's say you win. I mean, let's remember, you've got 50,000 Chinese nationals in this country in the last couple of years. Yeah. You have people on the terrorist watch list, 350 in the last couple of years. You've got, like you said, 13,000 murderers and 15,000.
But a significant number of people in the terrorist watch list are Trump supporters, I imagine, like Jan 6 adjacent people. I like the Chinese nationals thing too, because we're not like pretending about not sounding racist anymore. So she's fully just doing the Japanese internment camp thing, and she's saying, oh, you know that country that we're not at war with, that we trade with extensively? Well, there are Chinese nationals here. Okay. Doing what? Like improving the culinary landscape of the cities they settle in?
Right.
What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day.
And we saw this, of course.
He doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're the big, and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
Which, you know, again, we covered this, but like they want you dead. So, you know, just verbatim, like first they came for the communists and the trade unionists kind of deal.
Because they can't let that happen.
You told me back in February that you were going to rent out Madison Square Garden for a rally.
Yeah.
And now you're going to do it at the end of October.
Not only Madison Square Garden, we're taking 4 or 5 arenas. We fill them up very fast. As you know, we took where the Islanders play in Long Island. We had, I guess, 23,000 people, and we could have sold it out literally 3 times with thousands of people. We had tens of...
I don't think he's actually filled up a single venue once in the entirety of his campaign. He couldn't even fill up the venue he got for the RNC, and since then he's been failing to fill up like high school gymnasiums, you know?
Thousands of people that couldn't get in. We put screens on the outside of the building so they could see it. But that was incredible. And we just signed on Madison Square Garden. We're probably going to make a deal in Atlanta. We're trying to get the Atlanta arena, and we fill them up in minutes. And there's a great enthusiasm.
I think Madison Square Garden can only hold 20,000 people.
No, we're going to fill it up very fast. It's true.
Yeah. Why did you have to go back to Butler? I like the way you started, as I was saying.
As I was saying,
cutting it in.
Yeah,
like we're watching a movie.
Business, I think. I wasn't sure we should start it that way, but I guess that was a good thing. And it was beautiful, too, because the audience understood it immediately. Then we had a moment of silence.
The glazing is insane. If he wins again, this is the only kind of media coverage that it will be legal to do of him. That's not even a joke. I mean, he literally said that he wants to, what was it? He wants to revoke the press pass of which media of ABC after the debate with Kamala Harris that he lost and then refused to do another debate. He said he wanted to revoke their licensing as a news organization after that.
And then we had the Great Bells of Notre Dame, who have the taping of the Great Bells of Notre Dame. You heard the bells going, and there are no bells like that in the village. So we had the Great Bells, and
Broadcast
then we had
license, yeah.
Christopher, great opera singer, and he sang Ave Maria. And I was looking at this massive audience, and half of the people were crying. I mean, it was incredible. Everybody, I mean, the place was going wild.
What is he talking about?
Coming up, taxes and the economy.
We have to see the tariff part.
Iran and proposal, car loans tax deductible.
We have to see the tariff
plans to renegotiate his signature trade deal, USMCA.
You made some news in your Detroit speech with news proposals, but I want to get your take on your economic policy. First, debt and deficits, because you've said you want to eliminate taxes on tips, eliminate taxes on Social Security, on overtime pay, ending the double taxation of Americans living abroad, a proposal to make car loans interest tax deductible.
That was said. You
said that in Detroit. You even introduced this 15% corporate tax rate for companies who produce in America and hire American workers. But how will you pay for it? The Committee for a Responsible Budget says your plans will increase the debt by $7.5 trillion.
But they don't know.
The Wall Street Journal said that your plans will increase the debt and deficits more than Kamala Harris's.
If I do this, you're going to have car companies coming back to the country because of the taxes and the tariffs. The tariffs will protect them when they come in, so they will protect from other companies coming in, because if the other companies don't come in, they're going to have to pay massive tariffs.
And again, it's like, it really, like, I don't know, it really lays bare. You know how you can't have a free market economy unless you have perfect information, because unless you're aware of the options available to you in the market, you can't be reasonably expected to choose the best of them and therefore like give your money to the company that's providing you the best product. And there's no such thing as perfect information, but the more information you have about the products available, the closer you are to like simulating the perfect free market environment for that product. It's kind of like that, but for democracy. Like, you can't really have a functioning democracy if the information out there is so bad that nobody's making an informed vote. When you're in an environment where an entire political party is just straight up lying about, it's even worse than the trickle-down economics lie from the Reagan administration, because they were lying about what it would do, but they were clear on what the tax cuts were. I don't think the average American knows what tariffs are. Somebody mentioned it, but there was that David Pakman. I saw it on Twitter. David Pakman was talking to somebody, I don't know who, and the guy had no idea what tariffs were. He thought China was paying the tariffs. When companies bring the goods into America from China, he thought like the Chinese government was intercepting these transactions and going like, oh yeah, we'll pay the 20% for some reason.
And that's it. So I was told, here's what was happening. China was building massive car plants, big car plants in Mexico. That's the new one. And I just spoke to the man that does it. He's a friend of mine. And I said, how's it going with Mexico? What's happening with the car plants? He said, sir, they've totally stopped. I said, why did they stop? Because they think you're going to be elected. And if you get elected, I told them, I said, if I get elected, I'm going to put a 200.
The idea that Chinese car companies, did he just say Chinese car companies have stopped producing because they're afraid that Trump will implement tariffs? Chinese car companies don't even import to the US. They already don't. We already have tariffs on Chinese cars. They already don't. They're not even beholden. We're not even a part of that market. Stopped building plants in Mexico? Well, that's just not true.
100% tariff on every car, and you're not going to ever sell them into the United States, because if they ever built those plants, Detroit is finished, South Carolina is finished, everything's finished. So I said, here's what you're doing.
Here's the, man, nobody ever asked this question. Why is American car manufacturing so uncompetitive with the rest of the world? Like, I understand we pay our workers more, but in a highly automated process, how can it be that a car produced in America can cost like $50,000, $60,000, but a car of comparable quality, make, and purpose in another part of the world can cost significantly less? Wages aren't making up that much of the proportion of the car's cost. I don't have the math in front of me, but I don't think paying the UAW workers like $20 an hour or $25 an hour is hitting, like, making it 5 times the price relative to Mexican workers getting paid a fifth as much. It's a highly automated process. Have we perhaps maybe a little bit taken a look at the wages of the management of Ford, or of how much their shareholders are making? Is it possible that some people are skimming off the top?
I think they're going to go over there, build the biggest plants in the world in Mexico, right opposite us, and sell them in? Not going to happen. The auto workers are way down. In the last 4 or 5 months, they've lost a lot of jobs. They're doing this ridiculous electric mandate. Everything. You sell gas-propelled cars, you sell hybrids, and you sell electric. Electric is great. It's wonderful for some people, but not for
Also, the fact that we are even like hinging our domestic production on cars, you shouldn't be making that many cars in general. There are already enough cars for people in America. Americans have enough cars. There are enough cars. Cars don't break that quickly. Maybe back in like the 1960s, yeah, they would like rust under in a year and you would buy a new one. Like you'd get an Italian muscle car and the transmission would fall out the underside after it rained or whatever. But nowadays, cars are pretty damn durable. The cars that are a decade old run perfectly fine. You don't need to base all of your industrial... Wow, we could have had an industrial manufacturing base built on green energy. We could have had it, man. This article says labor costs only make 7% of the cost of cars in the United States. That's insane. So why are our cars so expensive? Because I don't think it's due to labor. Labor makes up only about 7% of the overall cost of building a car. Dude.
They have it mandated that all cars will be electric. It's a crazy, they don't go far enough. And as soon as I started talking about what I'm going to do, they stopped building all of the plants in Mexico. I said I was going to put tariffs. To me, tariffs are a very beautiful word. It's a word that's going to make our country rich again. Without tariffs, we have a busted...
American cars are not more expensive than Japanese, Korean, or German cars. I don't really know about Korean or German cars, but then Japanese cars, yes, 100% they are. Look at the relative cost of like an average Japanese car purchased in Japan versus an American-produced car in America. Leave aside all the transportation costs. We're just talking like domestically, the cars produced here. And one of the big reasons why is because we produce gigantic mother supercars that do nothing. You have these like fail sons, you know, like the second born child of a construction company owner who buy these Ford F-250s that have perfectly flawless paint jobs because they've never like hauled anything in their life, that, you know, have like a front bumper 5 feet off the ground. So unless you're hitting like, you know, like Shaquille O'Neal, they're going underneath the damn car when you run over them.
Country, we have $35 trillion.
But what about the criticism, and the Journal has done this as well, that if you do put something like a 200% tariff on a product, that it's only going to mean higher prices for consumers?
No, it's not. No, it doesn't mean that.
It's got to be passed on somehow.
No. All I'm doing is saying, I'll put 200 or 500. I don't care. I'll put a number.
Listen to this again, please. Listen.
That if you do put something like a 200% tariff on a product, that it's only going to mean higher prices for consumers.
No, it's not. No, it doesn't mean that.
It's got to be passed on somehow.
No. All I'm doing is saying, I'll put 200 or 500. I don't care. I'll put a number where they can't sell one car into the United. I don't want them to sell their car because I don't want them hurting our car companies.
Dog, our economy is like done. It's like over, dude. A flat 20% tariff would be bad enough. You start implementing selective multi-100% tariffs on Chinese various industries just to protect like local companies. Welcome to North Argentina. We're doing American Peronism. It's like regular Peronism, but with more cowboy hats. Hold on. I'm ready.
We're going to have a lot of companies moving into the United States. When I use 200, I'm using it as a number. I don't want their car. They will not be able to sell cars. I'm not going to let them build a factory right across the border and sell millions of cars into the United States and destroy Detroit further. You know, we lost over the years 70% of our car. We're going to bring back those companies, and I'll tell you what, they're going to come back in spades, and they're going to come back fast, and they'll go to Michigan, and they'll go to South Carolina, they'll go all over. They'll go to different places. Tennessee is very big, but we're not going to let them sell cars.
You ready for like a 200% tariff on foreign steel, and all the steel is going to come from the United States, and every consumer product is going to skyrocket in price, and we're going to hit like the Great Depression in no time. I'm ready. Who knows, man? Who gives a shit? Anything could happen. Who cares?
From a nice new factory owned by China, located in Mexico.
So your thinking is the threat of a
Cute hat. Okay, I'll commit to the bit if we're doing it. 1 second. I've got a canvas jacket. There we go.
200% tariff will stop them from taking the car. So you won't actually have to do it, so you're not going to actually push prices higher.
I never
That's your
until
thinking.
now I said 200. I'm using that just as a figure.
But you say
of speech.
200 a lot.
Oh, I'll say 100, 200, I'll say 500. I don't care. They're not going to bring cars into this country from Mexico and destroy what car companies we have left. But much more than that, I'm going to protect when a company comes to the United States. We're going to have a lot of companies come in because of all of the other things we can do. And remember, we have the real market. We have the golden market. We have the money.
Golden market.
But if we keep running like we are for the last 3 or 4 years, we're going to lose all of that. We're going to also lose the sanctity of the dollar. People aren't going to rely on the dollar. And they're going to do that. They're going to
Literally the opposite. The ubiquity of our trade, the fact that we trade with people all around the world, is what gives the dollar its power and prominence. The fact that the dollar is the global reserve currency because it's everywhere. The only institution that can print the US dollar is the Federal Reserve. It's the fact that we trade with everyone that allows other countries to have reserves of the US dollar. If we don't trade with other countries, how are they going to get the US dollar? If they don't have the US dollar, why would they use it as their reserve currency? Why would they care about the strength of the dollar? It's the same logic as like the debt that other countries hold in US dollars, right? Our debt to them, that means they care about the value of the dollar. That debt is in USD.
come back. And if they don't rely on the dollar, then I'm not going to let them sell into the United States. I'm going to tell them, look, if you're not going to rely on us as the currency of choice, then you are not going to be able to do business in the United States. You know what they're going to say? I love the dollar very much, every single one of them, because we are losing that. You know, China's trying to take that away from us.
Nice Elon Musk in Texas hat. Don't you insult me. At least I'm wearing it the right way forward.
And I'll say, by the way, I'll say the same thing to China. Like I put a 27.5% tariff on cars from China. So they haven't been able to pillage our country and close up our factories and lose our jobs. Otherwise, they'd be selling cars in here like hotcakes. And if you take a look at what they're doing to Europe, China is destroying the automobile business of Europe.
So I'm just trying to...
Which, by the way, which translates to... First of all, that's not true. But even if that was true, what that would translate to is European consumers are getting a wider choice in what car they want, and they're getting it cheaper. Like, the destroying the market thing that he's referring to here is literally definitionally the free market. They're destroying... First of all, this isn't happening. But if it was happening, he would be describing the process of a superior product outperforming inferior products.
Understand how you're going to pay for all of this no tax on stuff. And you said that there's a lot of fat in government that you're going to save.
I said, I gave you an answer, growth. We're going to grow at a level that you've never seen before.
Okay.
And we're going to have tremendous jobs, and we're going to have companies coming in left and right, and they're going to be building factories. They're going to take over empty hulks that are all over the place from companies that left.
But you've also said that there's a lot of fat in government that you would want to slim
Incredible
down.
fat.
So what agencies would you want to shut down?
Well, let me have you ask another person that, because I'm going to have Elon Musk. He is dying to do this. You know, he's a great business guy, actually.
I think this is genuinely one of the cleanest examples that we have of Trump being used as a vessel for other powers. Remember, Trump didn't like Elon. He hated Elon, and Trump holds grudges. Elon literally soft-launched Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign and then endorsed Vivek the day before he dropped out. This is the only time that I can think of that Donald Trump has ever given accolades to somebody who he previously hated. And the reason for that is because he needs Elon. And I think that what he's getting, you know, in exchange for that, Elon, I mean, is like, this is essentially going to be a shadow government. There are a number of powers that are fighting for control over the government. We are seeing essentially the business plot 2.0. And Donald Trump is like the charismatic snake oil salesman that they're using to front this, you know? It is a coalition of business interests, the loudest of which, the stupidest of which, in all likelihood, being Elon Musk, who are looking to essentially seize control of the government. like Trump himself will not have much power once he takes over. He won't need to. The moment Trump takes charge, an expert team of political and legal consultants working on behalf of the shadow government, and I'm not saying this conspiratorially or anything. When I say the shadow government, I mean the capital class, those interested enough that they have invested in and worked with the Trump campaign. It's not a secret that they exist. The Heritage Foundation is just like a core example of this. You have political consultancy groups that work directly in line with corporate investors. This isn't a secret. It's literally how the job goes. It's just, I think this is an example where all of the weight is coming from them. They will expertly dismantle our democracy, and I think that it is very unlikely the Democrats will be able to do anything about it.
Do you think of him for science and rockets? And every time I think he's telling me about a new screw that was developed, he's developed a new screw. Screws are difficult, and it's made out of titanium, and it's so exciting. But you know what? He's a great business guy, and he's a great cost cutter. You've seen that. And he said, I could cut costs without affecting anybody.
So he will be in the cabinet.
Not in the
Do you think Capital will stop Trump from implementing these ruinous policies? Capital backed Millet, and he's tanked the economy. Capital backed Adolf Hitler, and his war tanked the economy. They don't act in their own long-term best interest. They act out of panicked fear of left-wing populism. The idea that corporate fascist corporatocracy acts in like the intelligent, our plans and measured in centuries, Bene Gesserit, we're going to manipulate everything, whatever it's not true. They will ruin things. They're fine with that. Or at the very least, they're not smart enough to prevent it.
The cabinet, he doesn't want to be in the cabinet. He just wants to be in charge of cost cutting. We'll have a new position, Secretary of Cost Cutting, okay? Elon wants to do that. And we have incredible people. He's running a big business. He can't just say, I think I'll go into the cabinet. Other people can. He can't. But Elon's a little bit different in that sense. And besides that, I want him to send...
Have you heard Donald Trump ever speak this positively about anyone outside of Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping? I'm genuinely asking. Have you ever heard him say this many nice things about someone? Ever? He's bought, man. His ass is bought.
A rocket up to Mars. He said... He's made me a promise he'll get to Mars before the end of my administration, which will be long before, hopefully, China or Russia. I created a Space Force. First time that's been done since the Air Force. Air Force was the last. It was 81 years ago. And I did Space Force. And when Biden heard, he laughed. He thought it was so funny. He didn't understand. And we tried to end it. And the military went down on him. You wouldn't believe it. It's now going to be one of our most important things. We were getting killed in space by China and by Russia. And now we're leaving in space.
Coming up just moments ago, Elon Musk's SpaceX successfully launched the Starship rocket as Musk continues to be at the forefront of America's space exploration.
Of our work.
President Trump told me that he wants a new trade deal with Mexico and Canada as the former president promises a jobs boom and a revitalized auto industry.
Well, you said in your Detroit speech that you want to renegotiate your USMCA deal with Canada and Mexico. Yeah. But doesn't that undermine the deal that you put together?
No, because I put together a deal that gives me the right to renegotiate, because these are very smart people.
Why do you want to renegotiate it?
Because I want to make it a much better deal. I want to take advantage now of the car industry. I want to
industry. Why does he always say industry like that? It's very odd. It always sounds like he's misspeaking and then catching himself. Not to say I don't do that all the time. I do, but I'm very comfy right now, I have to say. I'm very much enjoying having this hat in my head.
Lets me do that. So I put a clause in. The hardest clause I had with them was, I want to be able to see how it's working, and I want to renegotiate. No way, we want to,
Literally,
I said, that's the way it is. Either you do that, or I'm not going to make a deal, and I don't mind. I didn't mind not making a deal, by the way. The problem we had is NAFTA. We had to get rid of it. It had to get out. It was the worst deal. Do you know when they signed NAFTA many years ago, they made typos and they made mistakes in the agreement that normally you would just sit back and change the following day? Nobody went back to change it. And it was things like numbers, they put wrong numbers in. They didn't really put wrong. The other people made them put wrong numbers. They put wrong numbers in. And nobody changed it for 30 years.
So what about USMCA? What do you want to renegotiate?
There are always things that you can do better. I got a clause that gives me the right to renegotiate it. Who else would think of that except a business person?
Who would ever consider to sign a contract that allows for future alteration of the contract? That's it's true. You must have invented that concept, man. It's not cold enough to wear a canvas jacket in here. Hold on. It's a very warm jacket. Don't drop the hat. Oh my God. I like it too.
person, a good one. I'm a really good business person, I will tell you. So that's the story. I'm able to renegotiate it, and I will renegotiate to the benefit of our country. We've been screwed by Mexico and by China and by Canada and by the European Union. Oh, European Union. It sounds so nice. The villages of the European Union, right? They are brutal. When you add up all of those countries, they're about the same size as us. They're a little bit smaller. And the European Union takes advantage of us unbelievably. But
when you add up this entire continent, you get a GDP that's roughly comparable to ours. That's crazy, man. How hard you have to work to make it look like we're the underdogs in this situation, you know? And we're getting taken advantage of by all these countries that are pithy, tiny compared to us. Now, if you add up every country in the world, you know, now we're talking about a pretty great threat economically.
I made a great deal with Japan. I made a great deal with South Korea. I said to them, we've got 40,000 soldiers over there. They're in harm's way. Now, I happen to get along with Kim Jong-un very well. If I didn't,
we know.
And it started off nasty. Remember Little Rocket Man? I called him Little Rocket Man. He called me things. And then he said, I have a red button on my desk. And I said, I have a red button also, but it's bigger and my red button works. And it was really nasty. And a lot of people were worried, actually. And then he called me and he said, I'd like to get together. You know, I asked President Obama, he said the single biggest problem we had was North Korea. You know, they have great nuclear force. And he said he thinks that's the biggest problem. I asked him, I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea, at our little meeting before. You know, it's a...
Remember when Kamala Harris said, like, just a few days ago, that the greatest threat to America is Iran? Jesus Christ. Iran, a country that's not capable of doing anything to us, versus Russia, the country actively, like, funding and plotting the undermining of our democracy with a bajillion nuclear missiles that it threatens to use on us every damn day. Insane. Like, massive cuck to Israel moment.
Ritual. You meet with the president, the new president coming in. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea. He said, they were close to going to war, I think. Well, and we would have had a nuclear war with millions of people killed. And when I was in there, I got along great with Kim Jong-un. I got along great with Putin, despite the fake Russia hoax.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about nuclear facilities now with regard to Israel. And, you know, you said that you think that Israel should, in fact, hit Iran's nuclear facilities. Isn't this dangerous to be talking about impacting
you don't want
nuclear facilities?
You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. Here's the story. When I left, Iran was broke. I said to China, you can't buy oil, and if you buy 1 barrel of oil, I'm not doing any business with you in the U.S. You're shut out. We're going to go cold turkey, which a lot of people say, let's do that anyway. And I said, in addition to that, anything that gets through is going to have 100% tariff. And Japan and others and China said, we'll pass. And Iran was doing almost zero business. And they were broke and ready to make a deal. Now they have $300 billion.
There was a deal.
He took all the sanctions off, and they're the ones that are sponsoring all the terror. He took all the sanctions off, took everything off, and it's too bad. I want him to be...
Well, if you get back in, are you going to go back to maximum pressure on Iran?
I can't tell you that, and I'll tell you why. I think it's so bad to tell a broadcaster, and you're a good one, a journalist, I don't want to say what I'm going to do in a negotiation, because you can't negotiate that way.
I thought it was odd that today President Biden said that he spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for the first time in 7 weeks or something.
Pathetic.
They've been at war for over a year, and he hasn't spoken with him in 7 weeks. When was the last time you've spoken with him?
I know that it's something Logan Act. I know that this comes up often, and I know this is like a point of disagreement. I see a lot of leftists on Twitter who act like it's impossible for any president to be worse with Gaza than Biden is. I promise you, if Trump wins, Israel is fully just going to do like full Middle Eastern omni-war. Like it's just like, and we're going to help them do it. It is remarkable how much worse it could get.
Netanyahu? Like 2 days ago. And he came to my house in Florida, Mar-a-Lago.
That's great, dude. I love that. I love, like, the Logan Act doesn't even matter anymore, dude. Literally, who cares? Trump can just meet with any foreign leader he wants to, and it doesn't matter. Meet with Putin 7 times after he loses, meet with every foreign, who cares, you know?
With his wife was lovely, but he came to Moron. He came to, I guess, he was
I saw the visit.
at the White House, maybe the UN.
Is there anything you could share with us in terms of that, the Israel-Iran conflict? What would you do to end the war on Israel?
I could tell you that Bibi has been very strong. He is not listening to Biden.
It sounds like he stopped sharing information with the U.S.
You know how the Democrats are willing to say, hey, the only foreign leaders who Trump is willing to praise are people like Kim Jong-un, Putin, Xi Jinping, Viktor Orban. There's one other leader that Trump is consistently willing to praise, and yet for some reason liberals don't like throwing his name in with the mix because, you know, it's a little bit politically inconvenient for them to do so. It's one other guy who Trump is on really good terms with, who matches the theme of all the other leaders.
Biden is the one that came up with the Afghanistan plan. Take the soldiers out first and leave all that weakness. Leave Bagram behind. Bagram's one of the biggest air bases in the world. We built it for billions and billions of dollars many years ago. It's 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons, and he gave it up. He's a fool.
I like the implication here being that the best way to have implemented the withdrawal from Afghanistan would have been to have not done the withdrawal and kept our troops there. Like, what does this even mean? People are like, but you left all that equipment behind. Are you suggesting we should have taken all the equipment back from the ANA before leaving? Like, we spent 2 decades in Afghanistan. We gave that equipment to the Afghani army. And then when we're leaving, we're like, actually, we'll take that back. Was that the plan?
And we can't have another fool as a president. Biden is smarter than she is. We can't have this for another 4 years. We're not going to have a country left.
Do you have a message for the people who are trying to come to America legally and they're still waiting?
It's so sad. So sad. It's so sad. You have people that have been waiting for 11 and 12 years, and then you have other people that just walk through and everybody wants to get...
Didn't over 70% of America want withdrawal? Yeah, everyone did. And then Biden did the withdrawal, and he did it almost like pretty perfectly, and they never forgave him for it. His approval ratings dropped massively during that and never recovered.
Amnesty. But the bigger problem is this: so many of those people are criminals. We're a laughing stock all over the world. They are opening up their jails, and they're opening up, they're taking MS-13s off the street. I took them out by the thousands. ICE. We love ICE. I love ICE. They fight. They know how to fight. They like to fight. But they love our country. And you put them into what they call a rat pack of MS-13, probably the worst gangs in the world. They use knives because it hurts people more. You put them into that, and it's a rough deal.
But there are people who are coming here legally, and they're waiting for years to get their citizenship. So do you have a message?
He can't even talk about legal immigrants. Have you noticed that? I mean, leaving aside the fact that he's already said he'll deport legal immigrants, like the people who are here on stay visas, like in the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. But he can't talk about legal immigrants because they're not a part of his plan. There are no, like, real legal immigrants. Like, maybe there are in the abstract. You know, like, he'll acknowledge that there are people here legally. It's not like he denies that existence, but they're not like a part of the message. It's pretty clear what he thinks about immigration in general.
For those people.
Yeah, stay there because we want people to come in. Just so you understand, I want people to come in, but they have to come in legally. That's going to be stepped up. You know, we need more people, especially when these companies are coming in. We're going to have companies, but they have to come in with love for the country.
Do you still think Trump isn't an ideological fascist? Yes. I do think he arrives at all of this just like inertially through what gets him attention and what he's told to say. I don't think ideologically he adheres to like the ideology of fascism. Now, in practice, that doesn't matter very much, right? Like, you know, you can program a machine to say fascist things but never believe fascist things, and functionally you've got like a fascist machine. I just think the distinction there is like kind of I don't know, an interesting. I don't think he really believes in anything, to be honest.
And they have to come in with some competence. What you just said is so important. He just said, not only did he ban identification, voter identification, he said it's illegal for you to even ask somebody for voter identification. Think of that. You know, the Democratic Convention, when they had their last convention, I saw the cards, you know, the passes that the people got. They have a massive picture of themselves from the side, from the front, like almost a prison picture. They have all sorts of numbers. They have Social Security. They have everything on it. But for voting, they say you can have...
It seems like the union workers agree with you. Why do you think the workers are with you, but the union bosses, some of the union bosses are not?
The bosses are with me too, but it's very hard for them after 50 years of voting Democrat automatically to go. I think Okay.
The opposite of this is actually what happened, where the Teamsters president went to the RNC and afterwards led to a bunch of division within the Teamsters. The opposite of this is actually what happened.
Look, I got the popular vote in the Teamsters by a landslide. You know that?
No.
Sean O'Brien's the head of the Teamsters. He's a fantastic man. I don't want to put him in a bad position, frankly. You know, he's in a little bit of a bad position because the people that voted for him, you know, it's very substantial, like over 60%. And they said, "What? You know, why aren't you doing this?" But I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great guy. Sean Fain of the auto workers, I win the auto workers in a landslide.
This is
what he's done with this
incorrect.
electric mandate is he's going to put his auto workers out of business. They would go with me. I think I have every union, every non-union worker, because they know that two things. I'm going to protect them, both militarily and with the police. We're going to put the police, we're going to allow the police to start doing their job. When 500 guys run into a department store to rob it and take the whole place and strip it and walk out with refrigerators and air conditioners, I mean, they're carrying refrigerators out, and the police are still...
It's again, I'll keep beating this drum for as long as I can before they put me in the death camps. I just have to say, the fact that this narrative has been allowed to exist at all is evidence of journalistic malpractice that should be like criminally liable. It should make you criminally liable. The idea of like the fact that this is a thing that you can just say, I reject any I think that it is anti-free speech to be able to clog the airwaves with deliberate lies to promote a fascist agenda. I think that free speech needs to be like the promotion of free and truthful speech, because there's no functional difference between an environment where the government censors you and an environment where corporate entities conspire to expose you exclusively to deliberate misinformation in an effort to sway your decision making. The outcome is the same in both cases. You alter the available range of information with the intention of making you do something contrary or like in line with the interests of the powers that be.
Standing there, you know, they're shaking. They're so angry, right? They want to do their job. They're not allowed to. They say, if you do your job, we're going to take away your pension, your house, your car. You're going to lose your wife or husband.
What?
It's so unfair, and they want to do their job. And the other one, Border Patrol. I love the Border Patrol guys. They're great. They want to do their job so badly, but they're not allowed to. You know, Border Patrol endorsed me. Do you know that I believe every single police force in the sheriffs, the fraternal order, I got the other day, 400,000 policemen endorsed me. I think every policeman in the country endorsed me. I'm not sure that they have one police person because she's terrible. You know, she was involved with defund the police. Anybody that was involved with defund the police has no right to be the president of the United States.
How are you going to guard against the bureaucrats undermining you?
Well, they're going to undermine. Well,
Jesus Christ, the way this is being presented as like journalism. How will you deal with the nefarious enemies of the state that seek to, you know, destroy America by faltering you?
I would say so. We have two enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within. And the enemy from within, in my opinion, is more dangerous than China, Russia, and all these countries, because if you have a smart president, he can handle them pretty easily. I got along great with all. I handled them. But the thing that's tougher to handle are these lunatics that we have inside, like Adam Shifty Schiff. Think of this guy's going to be a senator. He's running against a guy that doesn't understand politics at all, Garvey. But he was a good baseball player. But he doesn't understand politics at all. Adam Shifty Schiff, who's a total sleazebag, is going to become a senator. But I call him the enemy from within. When you look at the danger he put our country in, potentially with Russia, with a phony made-up deal that he made up with Hillary and some bad people, you know, that started off as an excuse for why she lost an election that a lot of people thought she should have won, because the polls indicated she might win, and then she got beaten everywhere, virtually. When you look at that, and then they said, it was Russia. They used it as an excuse. And then the fake...
It does feel, I don't know, kind of especially pointed that the person he chose as an example of the enemy within is a Jew. I was just waiting to say, because he never stops rambling, so it's not great. He's been using that phrase a lot lately, man.
News picked it up. And while you're on this, let's talk about the single greatest scandal, in my opinion, in broadcast. Interviewed Kamala.
Cut.
And she's incompetent. She gave them the dumbest answer anyone's ever heard. So they took that answer out, threw it, or the whole answer they threw out. And they took another answer that she gave to a totally different question and inserted it. And supposedly they did this a number of times. And they got caught. 60 Minutes. And CBS should lose their license for that.
My position, my beliefs.
This is all cut together, I think, because it's like a second channel that just recorded this. But Fox never seems to have any issues with copyright, so I thought I should be in the clear. We have to make it through, folks. We're too close. We're too close.
I think I don't want government.
Which is wild, because that 60 Minutes interview didn't make Kamala look good. Nope, not even a little. Again, like, and every time Kamala looks bad, it's because of her weakness, too. Every time it's because of, like, DNC consultant speak, where rather than taking a strong principled stance on something, she has to dance around, like, stupid bullshit, you know? God, I can't believe she said the greatest threat to America is Iran. How we're, like, going down with Israel, man. Jesus Christ. If it's just like, if Israel ever claps, we would, like, sympathetically nuke ourselves, you know? It's insane. We're like a murder-suicide pact with them.
In my personal business.
Mr. President, last week I spoke with the former First Lady, your wife, Mrs. Trump, and she told me she's pro-choice. She wrote it in her book, A Woman's Body is Her Decision. Kamala Harris's running mate, Tim Walz, then went on Fox News last week, and he said, Donald Trump is asking for a nationwide abortion ban.
Yeah.
Do women need to fear this? Tell us clearly and concisely right now what your abortion
Let me just tell you.
Stance is.
Let me just tell you. I think that it's something that's off the table now because I did something that everybody's wanted to do.
I got rid of
I
Roe
was
v.
able to
Wade,
get it
something
back
no
to
one
the
wanted.
states. Every legal scholar for 52 years they've been fighting. This issue's been tearing apart our country. For 52 years they've been fighting. Every legal scholar said it shouldn't be in the federal government. It should be into the states and a vote of the people. Let the people vote. And I was able to do that because of 6 very brave and very smart, but they were brave in a certain way.
I just wanted you to say it on the record.
Let me just tell you one thing. It's very important to me to have the exceptions, like Ronald Reagan had the 3 exceptions: life of the mother, rape, and incest. Very important. And it's gone back to the people. It's gone back to the states. And now they're working it out. Many states it's already worked out already. And this is what every great legal scholar wanted for 52 years. And this is what every Democrat and Republican wanted. Everybody wanted it. And I did it. Now, we'll see what happens. I will say this. That issue has been, in my opinion, largely diffused. Largely diffused.
What about the swing states? I know you're leading in all of these swing states. Are there areas that you're focused on that you feel those people need to hear you? Whether it's Hispanics or blacks or women or swing states?
Hispanics,
well, you see
blacks.
the polls with black men. I have numbers with Hispanics that nobody's ever seen before. You know, on the Texas border, which is largely Hispanic, all the way up and down, I think I'm doing great with men, great. But I also think I'm doing really good with women because women want protection. They want.
It's about security.
They want security. They don't.
This is also, by the way, like explicitly Nazi rhetoric. I mean, a lot of fascist governments use it, but the idea like, oh yeah, we don't want women's like suffrage. Women shouldn't vote. However, you know, what we know women want, like what women want in the strongman is protection. The strongman, the patriarch, the father, is meant to be like the male archetype, the masculine protector of the country, of the state. This is like a classic. There's a reason why, again, it's sexual insecurity. Fascism like transplants the patriarchal family dynamic onto the state, right? It's like blood and soil stuff. Much as the family is your blood and the family is also an institution, the state is both your family and your blood. Your countrymen are your brothers. The Führer is the father or the protector of some kind. Like there's this psychosexual transgression, I think. And it's very deliberate, but it's like men are supposed to like the strong man because they see themselves in him, but women are supposed to like the strong man because they need protection from, in this case, and it's always this case, like brown people who will rape them. That's always the thing. It's always like we got to protect the white women from the brown or black people. You know, it's like that's always what it's about.
Want to have migrants coming into their backyard.
See,
I'm going to get the migrants out.
I didn't even say, he didn't even mention it. He didn't even say, I paused before he said it. It's like, it's so predictable.
Mr. President, I know that you've been doing a lot of Gen Z and you're doing more Gen Z podcasts. Is the influence coming from Barron?
A little bit. I mean, he tells me about all the hot guys, people I never heard about. Dead. That guy is hot. You know, he's very cute, actually.
All right.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, Barron's a very good student. He's going to a very good school. No, he's got good marks. He's also tall. He's very tall. He's a tall student. But yeah, a little bit. But, you know, Don knows a lot about it, and Eric knows a lot about it. She's having a baby. Yeah, she's got a very good husband.
Real quick on China, Mr. President. Is China buying all the oil from Iran and basically complicit here and supporting Iran in its efforts to attack Israel?
I don't blame China at all. Because,
you don't?
Well, I told China don't do it, and they didn't. I said, if you do it, you're not doing any more business with the United States. And
to what? Buy oil from Iran?
Nobody's telling them that. You know, a lot of people say they did the whole COVID thing because they wanted to see any way we could get this guy out of office. I don't believe that. I think it was just incompetence. I think somebody came out of the Wuhan lab, had lunch with his girlfriend. He wasn't cleaned up. She caught it. She died. And it started. That's the way I think it happened.
I don't understand why 2 assassination attempts are not talked about every day anymore.
Well, that's because it's because there's, you know, I don't want to say.
Apparently 3. Apparently this just happened. Armed man arrested near Trump's rally in California who tried to use fake VIP pass to enter venue. Another failure. These losers.
Conspiracy theorists and all that, but you could ask that question. I mean, I'll give you an example. They've got one guy with 6 guns or six phones.
No Fed posting.
They haven't broken into those phones.
Why not?
Because maybe they don't want to know what's in those phones. Then you have the first guy with 3 apps, and the 3 apps are, 2 of them are foreign from what I understand. Why haven't they broken into those apps and found out where are they? Because you know what? 2 of them were foreign. So it's very hard to break into a phone.
This doesn't mean anything, obviously.
Actually, Apple can do it, but other than Apple, they have a key. It's an amazing thing. It's very hard to do it. And Biden should do something else. He should tell Iran, where I do have an open death threat, if you touch this guy, who's a former president, and now he's the leading candidate to be president, we're going to blow your whole damn country up. And then it would stop immediately. They cannot threaten an ex-president who is a very strong, you saw the betting odds, they're through the roof, right? Is a strong possibility to become the president again. If they did that, he should say, we're going to blow your whole damn country up.
And he didn't respond to attacks on our troops either.
No, he does. He never responds.
Yeah, anti-war president. Very true.
But they never attacked our troops with me. They never did. And I took out
They did.
Soleimani, but I did that for a reason, because he was going to blow up our military. Soleimani, the great general, he was a great Iranian general, he was working on blowing up 5 of our military installations. So I felt that was a defensive move. I had to do it. This country's gone bad. We're a failing nation. We're a nation in great decline, great decline. And I don't like saying it.
Isn't he saying his name wrong? He always says the names of foreigners wrong. Or I guess people who don't have, like, white names. Kamala Harris or whatever.
But we are a nation in great decline. We've been led by a man who's in great decline. And now we have a woman who's worse than he is. And we have to win the election. November 5th is going to be the most important day in the history of our country.
What? Okay. This is a very odd video that I got this interview from. Man, the rest of the video is knitting or crocheting or whatever. Okay. Well, I guess we got the critical on that. So I guess the moral of this story is that we're all going to die, and it will be the Democrats' fault for allowing it to happen. Does that sound right? Liberals love paving the way for fascism. One of the reasons why I haven't looked at anything recent that Kamala Harris has done is because it's so, like, sickeningly... I can't watch the 60 Minutes interview on stream because it's 60 minutes. But she's so sickeningly weak. Like, she's not doing anything. You know? Apparently she had a nice interview on the Call Her Daddy podcast. I don't know what that is, but apparently it's quite popular. She did a podcast with, like, like not institutionalized. She also crushed on Howard Stern. I don't know if I can watch that either. She doesn't do enough, like, with the news that I can just go over, you know? Media Blitz this week. Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Can't cover that. The Howard Stern Show. Can't cover that. CBS's 60 Minutes. Can't cover that. And ABC's The View. I don't think I can cover that. That's great. Thank you. Harris unveiled a smattering of new policy proposals. Again, like, no one gives a shit about policy proposals. That's not what people care about. Nobody knows what they are. Policy? Find me an American who knows what a policy is. You ask them about a policy, they'll say, like, oh yeah, I got a pretty good APR in my car loan. That's what they know about policy. Appearance on the hit podcast Call Her Daddy followed by 5 million mostly Gen Z female listeners. I mean, that's a good demographic to hit, you know. That's fine. It's just, well, from where is this? Where is this from? This is them talking about it. Okay. Scholar Daddy's Chill. One of my partners listens to that show sometime. It's a progressive, heartfelt, queer/feminist show. Well, that's a good place for Kamala to go. I've always believed that you're going to have more luck appealing to like the base with the energy rather than desperately trying to like water yourself down to appeal to the center, you know? It's just whenever you do, not to defend Harris's bad interviews, but it's wild that people are buying Trump's claim that she's not running on a policy campaign when Trump's leading policy is literally drill, baby, drill. Yeah, but again, like none of this matters. You can't take the bait, right? Republicans love it when Kamala Harris is like, you're right. I need to assuage people's fears that I'm too far left. I will be more centrist, more moderate. I will talk more about policy. I will be less inflammatory. F you. Why like listen to them? Why let your enemy dictate your strategy, you know? Me listening to the enemy general as we both gather our troops for battle, you know? Boy, I sure hope the enemy general doesn't approach runs just straight forward in like a big rectangle formation. Okay, what this guy really doesn't want to deal with is if we all slowly walk forward in a big rectangle formation. All right, everyone, let's go. Like, come on. You got to be loud. You got to be aggressive. In your opinion, why does Biden not get credit for the IRA and CHIP Act? Because doing something means nothing. Reality is nothing. What matters is messaging, and Democrats are bad at messaging. That's it. It's literally it. That's why Donald Trump is able to get accolades for things he's never done, and Biden doesn't get accolades for things that he has done. Because the Democrats are weak and pathetic. They don't have anywhere near the confidence, the media backing. They need to be broadcasting everything all the time, screaming it from the rooftops. They need to speak with the confidence and aggression of a paid propagandist, except in this case, they're not even lying with the propaganda. You have to be a propagandist if you're like running a political party. You're just like, that's the whole deal. You don't have to lie. Propaganda, you're just promoting positive information about your side or negative about the other. You don't have to lie to do it. The other side does plenty of bad stuff you can point to. You don't need to make stuff up. You've done good things, some. You can point to it. But they don't want to speak like propagandists. They want to speak like whingy, little bitch baby, media, think piece writing dipshits at the best of times, you know? Or you have the CNN fucks who are like, well, wouldn't it be more interesting if we steelmanned Donald Trump's economic positions? You. Yeah, they think populism and self-promotion are beneath them. They do. They do. They go low, we go high. Lord Filthy, the issue here is not the left. The online left is annoying. I'll give them that. But like, if we lose this, it is 100% the Democrats. The Democrats are going to try to blame the left too if they do lose, because I remember 2016, but this is not like it's 100. Like the position the left is supposed to get on board with in order to vote for the Democrats is that our party is complicit in a genocide, and not only will we not acknowledge that, but we'll call you anti-Semitic if you say we shouldn't be doing it. That's the position you have to be on board with to support the Democrats right now. That's just one of them. I mean, leaving aside plenty of the other stuff they've done or failed to do, that's the baseline. That's just like step one. In order to vote for us, you have to acknowledge and accept we are like in favor of an ongoing genocide and escalating war in the Middle East, that Biden has walked back 50 red lines of what Israel can or can't do, that we seem to be completely cucked to them on a foreign policy basis, that we give them an ungodly amount of money for literally nothing, that we lie about their objectives in order to defend them, and that they can get away with anything that they want to. Very openly, very publicly lying. It's very easy to fact check what they're doing. We will lie directly to your face and grin while doing it. That's like the first step you have to get over to vote for the Dems in this election. So given that, I'm not like at liberty to blame the lefties, the annoying Twitter lefties, for anything with regards to like their unwillingness to vote Dem. They should vote Dem. It is good to vote Dem. But if the Democrats fail here, it's on them. It's on them. Yeah, you are giving the lefties, or even like just decent people, an obscenely bitter pill to swallow just for step one. At some point, you have to go, okay, like Dems, when did you just run a bad campaign? When were you just bad at this? It's a damn man versus woman thing. Among young women, the poll shows Harris leads 70-23, while she only holds a 17-point lead among young men. That's crazy. 47-point lead with young women, 17-point lead with young men. Sheesh. Only? I mean, it's a 30-point difference between men and women. Women's media has largely fallen apart over the last decades. Feminist giants like Bitch Media and The Toast have long since disappeared. Jezebel is a shell of its former self. Have we ever considered the possibility that the reason for this is because so-called women's media was terrible? Like, men's media, if we're calling it that, is this giant coordinated, like, right-wing political apparatus that seeks to unify the insecurities of the incels and the such and such with, like, a deliberate aim. And the so-called women's media was mostly about writing provocative think pieces about how, like, you know, patriarchy is your husband not wanting to share his clothes with you in the wardrobe, or men, like, sitting with their legs open and manspreading on public transit. Like, they were always shallow. They were underfunded, for one. Like, they didn't have that political backing. But it was like liberal feminism. It was shallow, stupid bullshit. The real bulwark of actual feminist thinking has always been in queer leftist circles, not stupid bullshit like Bitch Media or Jezebel. There are good writers at Jezebel. I'm not saying all of them are bad, you know, but like women's media, and it's like, oh, well, what do women like? Women want think pieces on like the mind state of a woman who like cheated on her husband, but her husband forgave her, and now she still thinks about the guy she cheated with, and she tells her husband about that, and they've gotten into a kind of pseudo like cuckold dynamic where the husband knows she's thinking about the guy she cheated with while the husband rails her. Thank you, women's media. What? I remember that was a thing. I'm like pulling from the cavity of my memory, but that was at one point a think piece. I saw people get mad about it. Isn't that just rage bait? Yeah, it's low rent. It's like, oh, what do women want? Well, women want rage bait for incels, I guess. In my opinion, I think what women want is shopping. Which we should focus on that, maybe. Can you find it and read it? No. How do you square that with the man v. bear thing? I have no idea how this at all disagrees with the man v. bear theorem. It completely conforms to the man v. bear theorem. Yeah, feminist media outlets were always a self-caricature built on rage bait to attract attention. Whereas like anti-female, pro-male spaces like Gamergate or Andrew Tate or whatever have always had a more holistic political project in mind. Also, the problem is that like they're also not opposites. Like, feminism is supposed to be about equality. I mean, it is about equality, right? Whereas the Gamergate, Andrew Tate, such and such is about hating women. You can build the opposite. You can build a space that's about hating men, but it will always be anemic and politically ineffective because there just isn't like there isn't a real weight behind that, and it's not a project worth pursuing anyway. And if you're going to pursue something with an egalitarian agenda, you have to do so, you know, you can't be doing it with a stupid rage bait incel, whatever the Man v. Bear was totally rage bait, though, or at least it had that effect. Nah, I think there was a way more... Nah, I think that was substantial. Like, first of all, it wasn't a media campaign. It was like a random TikTok that blew up. Kind of different from, like, published articles. Second of all, I think that there was a lot more meat with those potatoes. It wasn't just like an empty such and such that was just meant to make people mad. I think that led to some very deliberate conversations. Which I stand by. I mean, I'm fully, you know, I'm with it. I'm hip.